What if a single moment of compassion, a choice made in a split second, could rewrite your entire destiny? In a world that often rushes past, one woman was about to face a decision that would pit her lifelong dream against a stranger's desperate plea for help. She didn't know it then, but missing her flight would be the very thing that allowed her to truly soar. What she discovered will astonish you. Stay with us for this incredible story of kindness and fate. And if you believe that good deeds can change the world, go ahead and press that subscribe button. Give this video a like and comment below where you're watching from. Your support helps us share more stories that inspire. Now let's begin. The announcement echoed through the sprawling terminal of JFK International, a disembodied voice slicing through a cacophony of rolling suitcases and distant chatter. Final boarding call for Pacific Skies. Flight 287 to Los Angeles. For Olivia Chun, those words were a starter pistol firing directly into her heart. Her worn sneakers slapped against the polished linoleum floor, a frantic rhythm matching the frantic beat in her chest. At 29, Olivia wasn't a stranger to hustle. Her life had been a marathon of part-time jobs, freelance design gigs, and ramen noodle dinners, all fueling a singular, burning ambition. The interview waiting for her in Los Angeles wasn't just another job opportunity. It was the finish line. It was a creative director position at Innovate Arts, a prestigious agency known for its groundbreaking campaigns for nonprofits. The very reason she poured her soul into graphic design in the first place. Her dark, shoulder-length hair whipped across her face as she weaved through the river of travelers. Each person was an obstacle, a slow-moving barge in her desperate current. Her portfolio, a hefty black case containing years of her best work, felt like an anchor in one hand, while her carry-on suitcase wobbled precariously behind her. She'd spent a year saving for this ticket, a year of turning down nights out with friends, and surviving on sheer willpower and cheap coffee. This flight was more than just a mode of transport. It was a vessel carrying every last drop of her hope. Her eyes, sharp and focused, scanned the gate numbers in a blur. B42, B44, B46. She was so close. The scent of Cinnabon and jet fuel filled the air, a strange perfume of modern travel that she usually found exciting. But today it only fueled her anxiety. Just a few more gates, she told herself, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps. Just a little further, and everything would change. Just as the bold blue sign for Gate B48 came into view, a beacon of hope at the end of the long concourse, a sound pierced through her focused determination. It wasn't loud. In fact, it was so faint, so fragile, that she almost dismissed it as a trick of her own strained hearing. "Help, please, someone." The voice was thin and reedy, like a dry leaf skittering across pavement. It was nearly swallowed whole by the airport's relentless hum. Olivia's mind, a freight train hurtling toward its destination, screamed at her not to stop. "Don't look. You can't. You're almost there." Every instinct, sharpened by years of striving and sacrifice, told her to keep moving forward, to block out the world for just 30 more seconds. The boarding door could close any moment. Her future was literally steps away. But the plea came again, a little weaker this time, imbued with a genuine, terrifying edge of panic. It snagged on her conscience like a hook. She slowed, her sneakers squeaking in protest as her momentum fought against her will. Turning her head, she scanned the periphery she had been ignoring, and then she saw him. Slumped in a seat just outside the gleaming facade of a duty-free shop was an old man. He was almost invisible against the backdrop of flashy advertisements and hurried travelers. His gray coat was rumpled. His face was as pale as parchment, and one hand was clutched tightly to his chest, the knuckles white. A simple wooden cane lay on the floor beside him, having escaped his grasp. His eyes, wide with a mixture of fear and pain, seemed to be looking at nothing and everything all at once. For a heartbeat, Olivia was frozen, caught in the crossfire between her ambition and her humanity. The image of the closing gate door flashed in her mind, followed by the defeated trek back to her tiny Brooklyn apartment. But then the old man let out a soft wheeze, a sound of pure distress, and the battle within her was over. The future could wait. A life might not be able to. With a final, mournful glance at the gate that held her dreams, Olivia pivoted and ran back. The world seemed to shrink. the cacophony of the airport fading into a dull roar as Olivia knelt beside the stranger. All thoughts of Los Angeles, of portfolios and dream jobs, evaporated, replaced by a singular, focused mission. "Sir? Sir, can you hear me?" she asked, her voice steady and calm, a tone she perfected during her volunteer shifts at a local nursing home. She gently placed 2 fingers on his wrist, searching for a pulse. It was there, but thready and erratic. His skin felt cold and clammy to the touch. He blinked slowly, his eyes struggling to focus on her face. My chest," he whispered, his breathing shallow. Olivia gave his shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "Okay, just try to breathe slowly. Help is on the way." She quickly scanned his pockets, hoping to find a medical alert bracelet or a vial of pills that might offer a clue, but found nothing. Around them, the river of travelers continued to flow, parting around the small island of their crisis, with barely a ripple. A few people cast curious glances, their faces flickering with momentary concern before they hurried on, prisoners to their own schedules. It was a stark reminder how easy it is to be alone in a crowd. Olivia felt a surge of indignation, but there was no time for anger. She flagged down a passing airport employee, a young man pushing a luggage cart, whose eyes widened when he saw the scene. "Call 911. Olivia instructed, her voice leaving no room for argument. "Tell them it's a possible heart attack." The employee fumbled for his radio, and soon the distant wail of sirens was replaced by the measured, professional movements of paramedics arriving on the scene. As they worked, deftly attaching sensors and administering oxygen, a voice boomed from the overhead speakers. "Final passenger paging for Olivia Chun, booked on Flight 287 to Los Angeles. Please proceed immediately to Gate B48. The doors are now closing." The word struck her like a physical blow. She couldn't move, couldn't speak. She could only watch as the paramedics carefully lifted the old man onto a stretcher, his identity still a mystery. By the time he was wheeled away towards the ambulance bay, the silence at Gate B48 was absolute. Her plane was gone. The bustling energy of the crisis dissipated as quickly as it had arrived, leaving Olivia in a sudden, profound silence. The paramedics were gone. The small crowd of onlookers had dispersed, and the staff at Gate B48 were already preparing the area for the next flight. For Olivia, it felt as though the world had switched to mute. She sank into one of the cold, plastic airport chairs, the same kind the old man had been slumped in just moments before. Her body felt heavy, weighed down not just by her luggage, but by the sheer gravity of her loss. In her hand, her boarding pass was now a crumpled testament to a future that had vanished into the sky. A tear, hot and unexpected, traced a path down her cheek. It wasn't a tear of regret. She knew, in the deepest part of her soul, that she would make the same choice again. It was a tear of pure, unadulterated exhaustion for the year of relentless work that had just been erased in a matter of minutes. With trembling fingers, she pulled out her phone. The vibrant screen felt cruelly cheerful. She opened her email and began to type a message to the hiring manager at Innovate Arts. Each word was a tiny surrender. "Dear Ms. Albright," she wrote, "due to an unforeseen medical emergency at the airport, I am so sorry to report that I have missed my flight and will be unable to make it to my interview tomorrow morning. I understand the inconvenience this causes, and I sincerely apologize." She hesitated, wanted to explain more, to make him understand, but she knew it was pointless. To them, she would just be another candidate who didn't show. She hit send, turning off her phone immediately after, unable to bear the thought of a reply. A nearby janitor, an older man with kind eyes and a slow, methodical way of sweeping, paused his work. He'd seen the whole thing unfold from a distance. "You okay, miss?" he asked, his voice gentle. Olivia managed a weak smile and wiped her tears. "Yeah," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Just missed my flight." The janitor gave a soft, knowing nod, a simple gesture of shared humanity that meant more than 1,000 words of sympathy, before continuing on his way. Left alone with her thoughts, Olivia watched as the hours crawled by, each tick of the giant airport clock a reminder of a dream deferred, and perhaps a dream denied. The hours bled into one another, turning the bright, hopeful morning into a long, melancholic afternoon. Olivia wandered through the terminals, a ghost in the bustling ecosystem of hellos and goodbyes. The airport, once a gateway to her future, now felt like a prison of polished floors and empty promises. Her savings were decimated by the non-refundable flight, and her spirit was running on fumes. What was she even supposed to do next? The thought of the long subway ride back to her apartment, back to the life she had fought so desperately to leave behind, was crushing. As she drifted past a small coffee shop, the rich aroma of espresso a stark contrast to the bitterness in her stomach, a voice cut through her daze. "Miss, are you Olivia Chun?" Olivia stopped and turned, blinking in surprise. The voice belonged to a young barista, wiping down the counter, an employee name tag pinned to her apron. How could she possibly know her name? Olivia gave a hesitant nod. The barista smiled, a hint of intrigue in her eyes. "Oh, good. A message was left for you," she said, leaning forward slightly. "You've been requested to come to Gate 4. There's someone waiting for you there." Olivia stared, completely baffled. Gate 4? That was in an entirely different terminal, one typically used for international departures. A wave of suspicion washed over her. Who could possibly be waiting for her? It had to be a mistake. Perhaps there was another Olivia Chun, another woman with shattered plans lingering in the airport's purgatory. "Are you sure it's for me?" she asked. The barista simply shrugged. That's the name they gave. Said it was important. Confused, wary. But with nothing left to lose, Olivia felt a flicker of curiosity override her exhaustion, dragging her worn-out suitcase behind her like the physical weight of her own defeated dreams. She began the long, quiet walk towards Gate 4, each step taking her further into a mystery she couldn't begin to comprehend. The walk to Gate 4 was surreal. Olivia felt as though she were moving through a dream, detached from the reality of her own footsteps. This new terminal was quieter, more spacious, lined with luxury retailers and signs pointing to far-flung destinations like London, Tokyo, and Dubai. It felt like a different world from the domestic wing she'd just left. As she approached the designated gate, a sense of unreality washed over her. The seating area was nearly empty, but standing near the jet bridge were two men. They were the kind of men you only see in movies, tall, composed, and dressed in sharp, dark suits that probably cost more than her rent. They stood with the quiet confidence of people who were paid to be invisible, yet they commanded the space around them. The moment they saw her approaching, they both turned in unison, their expressions polite but unreadable. One of them, a man with silvering temples, stepped forward. "Miss Chun?" he asked, his voice smooth and professional. Olivia stopped, clutching the handle of her suitcase. Her rumpled clothes and emotional exhaustion playing on her face felt glaringly out of place in their pristine presence. "Yes?" she managed to say, her voice barely a whisper. "Who are you?" The man offered a small, disarming smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "We're here on behalf of Mr. Harrison. He would like to meet with you, if you're willing." The name Harrison meant nothing to her. It was just another piece in a puzzle that was growing more complex by the second. Her mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation, but came up empty. Before she could protest or ask another question, the second man gestured toward the sleek, unmarked door next to the gate's main counter. It was a door she never would have noticed, one that blended seamlessly into the wall. "If you'll please follow us," he said. A knot of apprehension tightened in her stomach. Every instinct for self-preservation told her to turn and walk away. But a stronger, more powerful current of sheer, unadulterated curiosity pulled her forward, to the unmarked door and into the unknown. The door clicked softly shut behind her, sealing off the noise of the terminal and plunging her into an atmosphere of profound quiet. The room she entered was not part of the airport she knew. The air was cool and still, scented faintly with leather and something warm, like brewed tea. The floor was covered in a thick, plush carpet that absorbed the sound of her footsteps, and the lighting was low and golden, emanating from elegant, shaded lamps. It was a private lounge, a sanctuary of understated luxury hidden in plain sight. And there, seated in a large, deep blue leather armchair, was the man. For a moment, her mind failed to make the connection. This man was the picture of health and authority. He wore a crisp, navy suit and a light blue tie, and he held a fine porcelain teacup in one hand with perfect steadiness. He looked directly at her, his eyes, now clear and sharp, holding a warm, appreciative glint. Then he smiled, and in that smile, Olivia finally recognized him. It was the old man from the terminal. The same face, but stripped of all its earlier pallor, fear, and frailty. The transformation was so absolute, so jarring, that she felt a dizzying sense of vertigo, as if the floor had tilted beneath her feet. This wasn't a frail, helpless stranger. This was someone of immense importance. He gestured to the matching armchair opposite his. "I was hoping I'd get the chance to thank you properly," he said. His voice was completely different, not the weak, trembling whisper of a man in crisis, but a calm, resonant baritone that commanded attention. "Please, sit down. You've had a very long day." Olivia moved forward mechanically, her legs feeling disconnected from her body. She sank into the soft leather of the chair, her worn-out suitcase looking absurdly out of place next to the polished mahogany table. She opened her mouth to speak, to ask one of the 100 questions spiraling in her mind, but no words came out. She could only stare at the man before her, her reality completely and utterly upended. Olivia finally found her voice, though it was small and unsteady. You're okay," she stammered, the words feeling inadequate for the sheer strangeness of the situation. Her own reality then came rushing back, sharp and painful. "I missed my flight," she said, the statement flat, a simple fact that held the weight of her entire world. "I had a job interview in Los Angeles." The man, Mr. Harrison, met her gaze, his expression softening with an understanding that seemed to go far beyond simple sympathy. He raised a hand gently. "I know," he said, his tone kind. "I know everything. After the paramedics took me, I had my staff ask around." Olivia blinked, processing his words. His staff? The ease with which he said it implied a level of influence she couldn't fathom. The questions had been swirling in her mind finally coalesced into one. "Who are you?" He leaned forward, placing his teacup on the polished table between them, and offered a wrinkled but steady hand. "Jonathan Harrison," he said, his voice clear and direct, "founder and chairman of Pacific Skies Airlines." The name hit Olivia with the force of physical impact. Pacific Skies, the airline on her crumpled boarding pass. The logo emblazoned on the uniforms of the gate agents, on the side of the very plane she was supposed to be on. She felt the air leave her lungs in a silent gasp. The room seemed to tilt slightly as the pieces of the bizarre day clicked into place with an impossible, resounding clarity. The unassuming old man she had sacrificed her dream for wasn't just a passenger. He was the creator of the entire system. He let out a soft chuckle at her stunned expression. "Technically," he clarified, "my children run most of the day-to-day operations now, but I still make a point to visit the airports on my own, dressed like any other traveler." He studied her face intently. "I find you learn more about the soul of a company by watching people than by reading profit reports. You see the best and the worst of humanity in a place like this." His eyes held hers, a deep seriousness replacing his smile. "And today, Miss Chun, I saw something truly rare." Olivia was speechless. The compliment, coming from this man, in this room, felt more surreal than the fact that he owned the entire airline. "You gave up a life-changing opportunity to help a complete stranger," Harrison continued, his voice laced with sincere admiration. "Most people, I've observed, have become very good at looking away. They have flights to catch, meetings to attend. They convince themselves that someone else will stop. You didn't even hesitate." Shaking her head slightly, as if to clear the fog of disbelief, Olivia looked down at her hands. I did what anyone should have done," she said softly. He offered a sad smile. "Ah, but that's the beautiful, tragic truth of it, isn't it? Not everyone does. You reminded me why I built this company in the first place. It was never just about moving people from one city to another. It was about connecting them, about serving them. Somewhere along the way, in the endless chase for profits and efficiency, it's easy to forget that." He then reached for a sleek, modern phone on the table, his movements deliberate. He tapped the screen once and held it to his ear. Olivia listened dumbfounded as he spoke with an air of quiet, unquestionable authority. "Sarah, get the Los Angeles office on the line." I want you to reschedule Miss Olivia Chen's interview with Innovate Arts for tomorrow. And I want you to fly the entire board of directors in. Yes, all of them. I want them to meet her personally." He paused, listening for a moment. Before hanging up, he turned his full attention back to Olivia, whose heart was now hammering against her ribs for an entirely new reason. "If the interview goes well," he said, "and I have no doubt that the job is yours. We will take care of all your accommodations, your relocation, and the salary negotiations." A twinkle appeared in his eye. "Let's just say you won't have to worry about the cost of a plane ticket for a very, very long time." The sheer scale of his generosity was staggering. It was too much to comprehend. "Why?" Olivia finally managed to ask, the single word full of a million questions. "Why would you do all of this?" Mr. Harrison leaned back in his chair, his expression simple and profound. "Because the world desperately needs more people like you, Olivia," he said. "And because you took the time to help an old man that everyone else pretended not to see." 2 weeks later, Olivia was walking through a sun-drenched park in Los Angeles, a gentle California breeze rustling the palm trees above. She wore the official ID badge for Innovate Arts clipped to her belt, a quiet symbol of a dream made real. But her journey hadn't stopped there. She had, of course, gotten the job. The board of directors, personally introduced to her by Jonathan Harrison, had been so impressed by her character and portfolio that they created a new role for her on the spot. However, her most important work now lay beyond that. Mr. Harrison, true to his word, had seen in her the revitalization of his own founding principles. He had offered her the lead role in developing and directing the Pacific Skies Kindness Initiative, the airline's new charitable wing. It was a multi-million-dollar foundation aimed at supporting elderly and disabled passengers, providing travel grants for low-income families, and creating programs to honor community caregivers across the country. She hadn't told anyone the full story. Not her new, enthusiastic colleagues, not the reporters who had interviewed her about the new foundation, and not even her family back home. To them, it was simply a miraculous, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Because for Olivia, the reward was never the point. Her act of kindness in the terminal that day wasn't transaction. It was an instinct. It was about doing the right thing, especially when no one important seems to be watching. And so now, dear viewer, you know the truth. The woman you might see in a viral photo, standing beside the legendary Jonathan Harrison as they cut the ribbon on a new community project. That Olivia, the simple graphic designer who missed her flight to help a stranger, and in doing so, ended up flying higher than she ever could have imagined. Kindness, you see, has no price tag, but its value is infinite. It holds the power to open doors that money and influence never could. Never, ever hesitate to help someone in need. Because sometimes, the detour you take out of pure compassion isn't a detour at all, but the very path that was always meant to change your life forever.